was after that, we took a photograph and, for the record.
Mm-hmm.
And about a little bit later than that, Vernon Reid kind of motioned over to me like, hey, man, I need to talk to you for a minute. Now, me being me, part of me thought like, well, maybe I'm over the line. Maybe I'm over fraternizing with the headliners or something. And maybe, this is making, maybe
making somebody
I'm
uncomfortable.
thinking maybe I'm about to get reprimanded or something. You know what I mean? Like, because he had this look on his face that was just kind of curious. I was like, what's up, bro? He's like, what would you think about managing the band?
Wow.
And I said, say what? Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
He said, no, man. He goes, we need some help, and he started to break it down to me, and I won't get into those weeds here.
Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, we're kind of in a situation. And from where I sit, it's like, you're the person that has like the most unilateral comfort with all the members, because literally what he was trying to explain to me is that there's been a history of having different types of polemics with a manager being like perceived as being favorable to this camp versus that camp. And I'll just kind of like leave it at that. There was an internal dynamic to where their communication wasn't completely flowing in a healthy fashion.
They just needed help.
Yeah. And so that was the breakdown, and that was kind of the pitch. And of course I said, well, look, I can only do this with unanimous, insight, unanimous approval. I'm not stepping into a lion's den of controversy.
Yeah, you don't need to be caught in the middle of drama.
So let's do this. Let me think about it before I even say yes or no. Let me just think about it, because I got a long drive home. And that's exactly what I did. I drove back way slower than I drove down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what I figured I'd do is I would just kind of put them in the context as I would Saturday's Radar. I said, let me just work with you as a consultant. And let me sort of, develop some insight as to really what's going on, not just from Vernon's perspective, but I need to speak to each individual and get an emotional snapshot of like what their POV
where
and
they're
their
at.
experience is. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to play a situation where it's just a dynamic slanted in one direction.
Sure. Yeah.
So now I'm in the big time.
Yeah, real quick.
For real. You know what I'm saying? Because this is like an act that's generating over millions of dollars worth of income on an annual basis. You feel me?
Yeah.
And their respect is already firmly intact
Mm-hmm.
inside the industry, although they're not necessarily a hot topic right now as a household name, right? They're on tour with Aerosmith because Aerosmith wanted them on tour with them.
Which
not,
says
not
everything.
Because they needed a gig.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm trying to say?
Right.
Like Joe Perry admires Living Color. Steven Tyler admires Corey Glover. Sean Perry admires Vernon Reid. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I got you.
And so now it's almost like, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it.
Amen. Amen.
You feel me?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because first and foremost, I've got to get my head around being in that substantial of a position. Right?
Yeah.
I've got to literally decompress in my mind, like, okay, are you prepared to do this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like literally, because what you don't want to do is oversell your confidence at the detriment
of the band,
of your delivery.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah. Well, and how do you mentally prepare for something like that? I mean,
it wasn't an aspiration.
Yeah.
It was the last thing I thought I'd be doing that day. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Sounds like a theme in your life, man.
But I'll say this. After I slept on it, I felt elated. And I felt really humbled and honored to be invited into that camp.
Yeah.
because they are my friends for real.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
Like we were friends before they had a record deal. And when my record deal collapsed, they tried to resuscitate my publishing career. Right? Because I told you their management is what reached out to me during the Steel Wheels tour when they were opening for the Stones across the country. Right? So we had that bond. We had that, what I call deep trust bond.
It's your friend. I mean,
and I wasn't going to jeopardize that
right.
at the expense of any sort of income.
Mm-hmm.
You dig what I mean? Like I would bow out rather than step in to make it worse.
Right.
Right. So what I thought to do was I offered them a proposal that I would basically come in as a consultant, and I had everybody sign an independent contract with me. All 4 members had an independent contract with me as a consultant for basically, I believe I said 90 days.
Okay.
Give me, I want 90 days to sort out what's what.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not looking at this thing as a cash grab or anything like that. Right.
I mean, you're approaching it in the best authentic way you could.
Yeah. So. But I basically made the same offer to each individual, and each individual agreed. Right. So I literally got like 4 retainers.
Yeah. Nice.
Right. So we're on an even field, even keel, so to speak. And the first thing that I basically set up as a prerequisite is that we have to have weekly roundtable discussions, because that was the root problem, was that the left hand didn't always either agree or know what the right hand was thinking or doing.
Yeah.
And because each one of them are so proficient in their particular role, like they could have each had independent managers.
Yeah.
Like Doug Wimbish is a significant enough musician and producer to where he could have had an independent manager of his own that would be at odds with Will Calhoun's independent manager or Vernon's independent manager, because they all have side projects, meaning to say they all are working musicians like all the time.
Yeah.
Just because you don't see them with living color doesn't mean that they're at home just watching television.
Yeah.
Right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, when Doug joined Living Color, he had just left Jeff Beck and thought that he had a shot at joining the Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow. Damn.
Or thought that he had a shot at joining Bruce Springsteen.
So he was up there. I mean, creme de la creme.
He's a monster.
Yeah.
I told you, like Doug was at the forefront of the whole hip hop movement, right? Because he used to play with the Sugar Hill Gang.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Wow.
Yeah. So hip hop, a hippie to the hippie to hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
That's Doug on that track.
Really?
Yeah. The Sugar Hill Gang was a real band. And he was playing that vamp from Good Times by Chic. It wasn't a sample.
Right.
That was a real band playing that shit.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just use that as an example, right? Like Doug Wimbish is a heavyweight musician. Yeah. So when they severed ties with Muzzy Skillings, they were looking in that weight class. I mean, if not for fate, Daryl Jones could have been in Living Color instead of the Rolling Stones. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I got you.
Or Marcus Miller. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Like they weren't looking at street level.
Yeah, yeah.
So my point being is that now I'm in this universe, right, to where everything is elevated.
It's the tip top.
Everything is elevated.
Yeah.
And when we're having conversations, we're having deep conversations, bro. It's not just chit chat. You feel me?
I couldn't imagine.
And each one of these guys has a specific tone and tempo of personality, and you know what I mean? They're professionals. They are not like drug addicts or alcoholics. They don't have like substance issues in the mix of their creativity, right? They're clear-minded. They're very focused. They're very analytical, and almost to their detriment because they have so much ability.
Right.
You feel me?
And resources.
Like each one of those guys has studios.
Yeah, exactly.
Like not just little.
Yeah, they got full blown.
No, I'm talking about they got facilities.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Oh yeah.
So when we started talking about here's the thing. It got so interesting so quick. Because let's say in that 90-day interim, what I did was literally try to put myself out of work.
Just try to work yourself out of it.
No, not that, not in a negative way. What I'm trying to say was I made my mission reaching out to other major management teams.
Right, exactly.
To see if I could get them plugged in. So I went back to like Q Prime, who was like Metallica's management first. I thought that might be a great fit because Q Prime not only manages Metallica, they manage Red Hot Chili Peppers. They manage Green Day.
Yeah, that sounds like some pretty good groups to be involved with. Yeah.
You feel me?
Uh-huh.
And so the Overture Living Colour is a well-known entity in the industry, right? You don't have to sell it.
Right.
You just have to say it's a possibility.
Yeah, exactly.
And run it up the flagpole. And of course, then it's meetings and the meetings for the meetings and the meeting after that, meeting for the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, I feel that. You have no idea how much I feel that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's where I got so comfortable with Zoom. Right? I'm just trying to say, without putting too much business in the street per se, because it is water under the bridge.
Yeah.
But my ambition was to put them in alignment with some people that really could position them at the level that they deserve to function.
Right.
Right.
So how long were you in that position?
Well, for about 90 days. And what I wound up was, like I said, I'll drop a couple of names. I mean, I talked to, obviously, the people at Q Prime. I talked to Bon Jovi's management about it. You know what I'm saying? I talked to a couple of other substantial entities.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then I wound up with Bill Ham, who was ZZ Top's career manager.
Right.
Now, by this time, Bill Ham was 78 years old. So he was semi-retired, so to speak, but he had his headquarters here in Austin.
Okay.
In Westlake. Right? So I knew his general manager, and I said, well, here's what the situation is, and I broke it down, and first Bill thought about it and was just going to take a pass because he just was like, well, first of all, I'm more interested in real estate by this time. You know what I mean? It's
like, he had his...
Because a lot of people don't know, he not only broke ZZ Top, but he broke Clint Black.
Oh.
Like from scratch.
Yeah. I mean, I had heard about him through ZZ, but I didn't know that about Clint.
Yeah. Well, he was legendary through ZZ Top because he took them through three different label transitions. And every time it was like a mega million increase in
big stair step
in their value. You know what I'm saying? So needless to say, he was a whale.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what I was looking for. So the way it was, I literally, it's almost like, this is where my story reminds me so much of Forrest Gump, right? I literally went into a meeting with Bill Ham at a 30-foot long boardroom table.
Yep.
And it's just he and me.
Yeah. Yep.
I said, do you mind if I come down
to the other end
and sit next to you?
Did he mind?
No, he was very nice. He had met me before in previous like hit and run instances because I used to be really friendly with Billy.
Right.
Over the years, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so he knew who I was. It wasn't about that. It was just at this point in his life, he was just kind of like on the fence about being involved with another band.
Yeah.
Per se, right?
Sure.
But there's a part of him that just loves the fight. Yeah, right? There was a part of him, it's like itch he can't quite scratch.
You don't get to that point without that.
So at first he literally took a pass. And then literally 2 days later, my phone rang while I was at lunch at Barton Creek Mall. And it was his office asking me for another meeting. And this is why I say Forrest Gump, because I'm literally looking around like, can you believe this shit?
You're on your lunch break from Macy's?
Yeah, I'm at the Barton Creek Mall.
Oh,
I've got to go. I've
God.
got to go find a utility closet somewhere where I can just hear this conversation.
Oh, man.
And then we set up another meeting, and then went back. And of course, we go back this time, and it was even a lot more congenial because he agreed that he wanted to take it on. Because a friend of his, he was talking to a friend of his out in Hollywood named Jeff Franklin, who's another whale, like semi-retirement. Like Jeff was one of the co-founders of like Casablanca Records. He was involved with like signing Kiss and Parliament Funkadelic to like, you know what I mean? He's that dude.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
and by then had like diversified into so many TV shows and so many film entities and so on and so forth, right? So because these guys are like,
the top of the chain. Yeah.
Echelon, right? And it's not just about the money, it's the experience. You feel me?
Oh, yeah.
So with Bill, I just knew that if he's looking at me eye to eye saying, I want to do this,
it's real.
He wants to do it because he doesn't have to do it. It's so much easier to say, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah.
I've got money to
I got to check. I got to check the stroke. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, then I had to set up a team call with Living Color.
Okay.
To see how they felt about Bill. Right? And here we go again. That's going to be a roll of the dice because they don't really know. They're a generation apart from me. I'm 5 years older than Vernon.
Okay.
And Vernon and Doug are, I'm going to say Vernon and Doug are 5 years older than Will and Corey. Right? So there's a significant
there's
generation
just time
gap, right? To where 50% of the band is feeling a different vibration than the other 50% of the band. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
And let's not forget that these guys have a couple of Grammys in their belt, in their resume, and they've been in the industry for 30 years by that time. You know what I'm saying? And they know every damn body.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? It turns into a name drop-a-thon.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying.
I know,
So they're not just like sitting there, aghast at talking to Bill Ham. It's like, okay, well, yeah, we talked to you and we talked to Tommy Mottola and we talked to fill in the blank.
Yeah.
It's not my first rodeo.
It wasn't a big thing for them.
You know what I mean? Nor should it be. That's not the point.
It's not where they were in their career.
I just knew that Bill had a really strong penchant for strategy, for negotiations and strategy, right? And they were with this company called Megaforce, which is predominantly like a boutique metal label. Like Megaforce is the label that you'd find Anthrax on.
Okay.
Or Megadeth. Megaforce actually was the label that launched Metallica when Metallica were like teenagers.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Gotcha.
So I'm not getting into the dichotomy of all the history of all of that, but what I'm just trying to say was Living Color's predicament was that they were pretty far behind two deadlines for a subsequent delivery date on their 9th album. So I sort of walked into a hornet's nest of anxiety with their relationship to the label. It was somewhat strained, right? Exacerbated by the internal issues that they were trying to mitigate,
It's a lot to balance.
Yeah. And so obviously bringing in leverage was what I was looking to do, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to necessarily enrich myself as much as I was trying to fortify the band from a business leverage perspective. Right. And that's what I did by bringing Bill to the conversation. Now, if you've been following my life story,
I have.
No sooner than we had that huge roundtable meeting and everybody felt great about it, 2 weeks later, Bill died in his sleep.
Oh, my goodness.
We had just finished the completion of the video for the first lead track off the new song cycle, which was called Who Shot Ya, which was a remake of a Biggie Smalls track. You can find it on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great little video.
Okay.
Because it was right in the midst of the George Floyd
I see.
uprisings and everything. You know what I'm saying? Like it might have been a precursor to the George Floyd uprising. There was another incident where there was a police shooting of an unarmed, suspect, so to speak, that was so egregious that it resulted in a civil uprising.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? So anyway, they had a fixation on making a statement about that by presenting Who Shot You as a heavy metal track instead of just a straight up hip hop track. You got to hear it.
Yeah, I got to listen to that.
Yeah. So we knew we were sitting on something hot, right? And we had this existing warm relationship with the WWE because they had a real strong relationship with CM Punk, this wrestler CM Punk,
right?
That was using Cult of Personality as his
walkout.
His walkout. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And they had done a couple of events where they had literally gone to an arena. You know what I'm saying? As a live act.
Okay.
In a championship.
Yeah.
Championship capacity, right?
That's cool.
You know what I'm saying? So they had that. So what we were working with was one of the lead production managers at the WWE had agreed to take on Living Color's video production.
Okay.
Right? Because I knew Bill was going to want to go hard.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to look at the bottom line as a barrier to any of that shit.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. He's going to throw everything at it.
Yeah. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
So we had a plan.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm trying to say. But sadly, God had other plans and called him home.
Yeah.
He died peacefully in his sleep, unexpectedly. He wasn't wheezing. He wasn't limping. He wasn't struggling physically. He just went like I hoped to go. Just went down and never got up.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I say it that way, but you got to know it was devastating.
Of course.
On so many different levels. You know what I'm saying? So in the aftermath of that, I'll put it this way. We shifted gears and we soldiered on. And what I loved about we finally went through a whole process of like, editing down through 25 tracks to get like, I believe it was like a 14 or 15 song cycle for this album that was released called Shade. Will Calhoun actually produced like what wound up being the cover art. Yeah, because these guys are polymaths. Like Vernon's a really good photographer. Will's a really good photographer. Vernon's a pretty good painter. Will's a really good painter. You know what I'm saying? And so you got
left side of the brain, man. It's just
like David Bowie or something. You know what I'm saying? Like these people, are not just monoliths,
right? Yeah,
in their craftsmanship.
No, I got you.
Right. But what we did to kind of fast track to make up all this dead air that we had developed between Megaforce and the delivery date, wound up working with like 6 different producers simultaneously to mix down. Like, you're going to mix down 2 tracks. You're going to mix down 2 tracks.
Okay.
You're going to mix down 2 tracks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're talking about like Chris Lord Alge, Ed Stasium, who did like the first 2 albums.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's big names in the business.
Yeah. I mean, every one of them.
Getting it done quick.
Heavy hitters.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like pros. Like A-list pros. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Under budget.
That's a big part of it.
You understand what I'm saying? Because, they had to do what they had to do.
And so
we got it done.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the end of my contract, because realistically, the whole situation with the management thing just kind of dissipated, matriculated, right? Because I think one of the band members had another lead for an individual that the other 2 weren't sure about. And it literally took us all the way back to square one. But by then, my term had sort of expired. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't press or demand for a re-up or an extension, because we had delivered the album.
Yeah.
And
you got it done.
I just figured, well, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead
right
here, and they gave me a release,
And so was that the end of Dubois?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, shortly thereafter, I started working with Norwood Fisher from Fishbone.
Okay.
We had a project with Trulio Disgracious.
So
which was a side project that he had from Fishbone, you know what I'm saying? So we started doing some work on that. And then that led to an introduction that I received to Andre Simone, who was like the bass player in Prince's original outfit before it turned into the Revolution. Andre went solo and signed a massive, 6-figure solo deal with Arista before 1999 came out.
Oh, wow.
But he was literally like Prince's right-hand man, so to speak. They were homies from high school. Prince lived in Andre's house before Prince graduated high school. Well, sometimes I say that I love you, but now finding it hard just to tell you, but I think you want to know. Without you, my days would seem empty now, and lonely sleepless nights never end. I'd much rather die than to live without you, baby, and I feel this way till the end.
Moving from Dubois, I want to get into what you're doing today.
After my engagement with Andre Simone, now we're facing like the pandemic. So now everything is going to another, let's say, technical upheaval, right? Because the music business imploded.
Right.
It just flatlined.
Yeah, like everything else.
So it was during that period of time that I kind of set my attention. I went into a collaboration with my younger sister. Rest in peace. She passed away 2 years ago on 9/11. But before that happened, she and I had collaborated and developed a pretty substantial education curriculum to basically put a proper framework on the contribution of African-American musicians in the American pop culture. So it was an educational tool that in earnest I was developing as a model for the School of Rock headquarters.
The franchise.
Out of Chicago, like the principal.
Right.
The principal headquarters.
Right.
For like for basically national application. I'd gotten an outreach from them during the George Floyd uprising. Okay. Right? Which coincided with the pandemic.
Yes.
If you recall.
I do.
And so the whole idea was that's where you first started hearing about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And this was the era where those civic uprisings and demonstrations, and you were starting to see these hashtag Black Lives Matter everywhere, and we're allies, that whole movement, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I got this spontaneous phone call from the School of Rock, who ostensibly had reached out to the Black Rock Coalition looking for some sort of DEI initiative that they could infuse into their educational curriculum. And that's how the conversation started.
Interesting.
Now, my younger sister had just recently retired from the city of Santa Monica as the director of their transit department.
Right. We touched
for
on
25 years, right? So she was extremely proficient in high-level business. Yeah. Right? So I had her in my corner like a whale.
Yeah.
You dig what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can talk to me any way you want, but it's not going through this firewall unless it makes dollars and cents. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah.
But the idea appealed to me just simply because even going back to the genesis of the Black Rock Coalition, right? I can't tell you how many conversations we've had just about how disrespected we feel when people say, well, Elvis Presley is the king of rock and roll. And it's not to denigrate Elvis Presley as an entertainer. It's just the fact that it's not true, right? Because we all know if there is a king of rock and roll, it's Little Richard, chronologically speaking, right? He was there 5 years before Elvis.
Right.
You feel me? And if that's not true, there was no color barrier to break had not Chuck Berry already broken that color barrier before Elvis Presley presumably crossed over.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like those two black artists in particular had done nearly the impossible, right? By attracting the intrigue of the young white rock and roll population. So people don't get it twisted, right? It's like it's not a pigment thing that we're really tripping on, right? We're tripping on the historical legacy of a culture that we've consistently infused vibrant fun and entertainment to, going all the way back to let's say the ragtime era, right? When you hear people talking about ragtime, Scott Joplin, a black creative pianist with classical training, created ragtime, which was kind of like the hip hop of the 20s,
right?
If you understand what I'm saying.
It's undeniable.
And then you move up to the era of, let's say, the era of jazz where Louis Armstrong starts to really become like a dominant force out of New Orleans in the 30s, right? And then that is the precursor to like the big band swing movement, right? And of course, you've got, white musicians, black musicians playing on stages together where in the South, everything is still segregated, right? So where you may have, and of course, you don't have television, you've only got radio, and you've only got like live venues for public display because there's no television. So if you want to see Benny Goodman or Tommy Dorsey, these orchestras are coming through your town like the Ringling Brothers Circus and doing a residency for whatever, 3 or 4 days or the weekend or whatever it is. And everybody within 50-mile radius of that event shows up to dance. Except it's segregated. There may be black musicians in the bandstand,
right?
But there's not black people on the dance floor.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah.
So that didn't start until the rock and roll era. So without getting into a long diatribe about the history per se, we had been very intentional and very adroit about understanding like what that timeline actually like looks like from a chronological, almost entomological vantage point. So I like to put Sister Rosetta Tharpe at the top of the timeline because she was the person that brought Little Richard to the stage when he was a protege, when he was 13 and 14 years old. She was a gospel singer, but also one of the first electric guitarists.
Yes, and a phenomenal guitarist.
When Gibson, when you know what I'm saying? When
she had that SG with the 3 humbuckers.
Oh, you see what I'm saying? And she was shredding.
Oh yeah.
She wasn't just strumming chords.
No, she was getting after it.
And she sang at the same intensity of someone like Mahalia Jackson, which is arguably one of the greatest gospel singers of all time, right? Like Mahalia was Aretha before Aretha, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
I do.
Right? She was peerless.
And so you were trying to integrate all this history.
So we actually went about the business to put a framework on it. It's not just jibber jabber, right? The School of Rock came back and said, well, if you can if you could basically align an academician, like a vetted academician, like a PhD, ethnomusicologist, right? And, a small cadre of like-minded intellectuals that essentially like establishes the intellectual academic value of this product.
Right.
We'd be willing to basically license it from you. So that was the incentive.
Okay. Yeah.
So I already had a rapport with a gentleman out of Maryland, Dr. Thomas Stanley. He was an ethnomusicologist, PhD ethnomusicologist at George Mason University. He was already in the process of helping to develop my autobiography.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I probably have sent you.
Yes, you have.
The outline of Memoirs of a Black Rock Maverick.
Yeah, I just didn't realize
that's Dr. Stanley that developed that outline.
Okay. Wow.
You see? And while we're plugging, we're still looking for a publisher for this project. I'm sure we'll get to it eventually. But my point is, I already had him on hand, and at the time I still had a viable resource through Greg Tate, who was one of the other principal co-founders of the Black Rock Coalition alongside Vernon Reid, right? And Greg was just really prolific. I think I told you about Greg. He's a really prolific music journalist, that was, started at the Village Voice and then became like the senior writer at Vibe magazine through Quincy Jones when that happened. And of course, he's had long tenure with Rolling Stone magazine and myriad other, he's what I call a heavyweight, musical journalistic influence, right? So I had Greg involved, Dr. Stanley involved, myself, then the former president of Black Rock Coalition, Bruce Mack, and myself, kind of formed the core intellectual team of Duvois Apex Solutions. That's what that is.
Okay.
Duvois Apex Solutions is an educational curriculum.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then I had another young filmmaker named Luke Jacobs, who's a friend of mine. You remember when I showed you the pilot for the automotive show that I had developed?
Right.
That was Luke that did all the filming for that, right?
Yeah.
And he and Dr. Stanley put together like basically an animated timeline that shows, the evolution from Sister Rosetta Tharpe to Little Richard. And then, of course, we had to put in Chuck Berry and Elvis Presley and all the, all the significant individuals that fell in alignment before Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Lee Lewis was before Elvis Presley, just to put things in context.
Right, yeah.
Right? But that whole thing with like Sun Records, Sam Phillips, Ike Turner was the producer of those Jerry Lee Lewis records. Ike Turner from Ike and Tina Turner.
Yeah.
Ike Turner produced the very first, what we call legitimate rock and roll record by Jackie Brenson called Rocket 88. Ike Turner produced and performed on that record. That's considered like the flashpoint for the rock and roll era, Rocket 88. Right?
I'm gonna have to listen to that record. I haven't heard.
It's a cruising, swinging shuffle, But it's easy to find it, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, Ike Turner was a staff producer at Sun Records. He's the one that brought Howlin' Wolf to Sam Phillips.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is before Chess Records blew up in Chicago.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting my gist.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? My point is like black people had their hands on the wheel. Because you got to understand the inflection point, in my opinion, was Louis Jordan, who was like the first musician that really matriculated from the big band era. And he really is the person that single-handedly popularized the small combo. Right? You got to remember from the 30s to the very early part of the 40s, World War II era, the big bands were like the dominant entertainment medium.
10, 12 people on stage,
right? Or more. 15, 20 in some cases, right? Depending on who you're talking to. But see, while you had like Benny Goodman or Tommy Dorsey from the white, let's say the white contingent, you also had Duke Ellington and Count Basie from the African-American contingent, and they had the better bands.
And so you were just bringing all this history into a curriculum. Is it being used today?
Well, it will be.
Okay. You
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The bottom line was the School of Rock kind of choked at the price point. Right? We kind of hit a glass ceiling.
I see.
Right? Because they wanted to license
Sounds
it.
familiar.
They wanted to license it, right? But they didn't want to cough up the numbers that we had on the books. And my sister had already done all the research to understand where that price point set, because she basically looked at it as if she were going to own a franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she did the calculus on how much money they were bringing in on franchises. And if we were going to license a curriculum to these people at that number of income that they had access to, then this was going to be our price for the licensing agreement. And see, they didn't know that we knew how to count.
And so where does that curriculum sit right now?
On my website that I have not launched.
I was going to say a fully packaged something.
But I'm going to find somebody that's going to help me launch it eventually, because I'm Bevis Griffin.
Yes, you are. And so
so there's that. And then we got through the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right? Then my sister passed away. Right? And then I started working on a concept for a TV program called The Kings of Custom with Mercury Charlie, who's like a local phenom.
I love his stuff.
In the custom auto world, right? And me and Charlie and Luke Jacobs developed a pilot showcasing basically 10 of the existing seminal pioneers of the American custom industry, so to speak. And then, no sooner than we got that thing on its legs, then the Hollywood writer's strike went into full effect.
Goodness. Of course.
And that froze everything up, for the better part of 2023?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm not sure. I didn't follow it too closely, but yeah, sounds about right.
So, we had some business teed up, but then that happened. And so we had to eat a year because everything collapsed in the industry. And by the time they got the strike ironed out and everybody was ready to get back on their horses, people had relocated and shuffled around from different companies. So the people that we had in place to advance it
no longer there.
We're no longer, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Still have a core concept, still have it. You know what I mean? It didn't evaporate, and we didn't disband as an LLC or anything, but what was the following year? Then the Hollywood fires.
Oh, wow. So this was 2 years?
Last year.
Last year. Yeah, 25.
Because my niece, my sister's daughter, right, through a marriage, lost all her property in the Altadena fires. But more so, it was another huge disruption to Hollywood business.
Right, of
writ
course.
large. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my motto is always hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Because I've got to wait on God. You know what I mean?
If that's what
now,
you're looking
in the interim, while all of that was matriculating, I became aware of the prospect of moving into the mental health field through a mutual friend when I started boxing about a year ago.
Oh, really?
I was boxing at the South Austin gym right off of Manchac. I was in this boxing gym and I met this lady, and she told me she was thinking about drinking again after she had been sober for a number of years. And I listened to her for, the better part of her experience. And then I told her, I said, I wouldn't let anybody take my peace just because you're having a disagreement. I wouldn't let anybody dismantle my peace. And then I said some other interesting things, I suppose. And then she sent me a letter back saying, you really did help me. Just showing me that, just the courtesy of letting me talk.
Yeah.
And then what you had to say in response was really inspiring. She said, you'd be really great in the role as a peer specialist. I was like, well, what is that? I had no idea about it as a career opportunity.
Right.
So it turns out that she was a mental health facilitator.
Interesting.
So she sent me some material about peer support. And the criteria is that an individual supporting other individuals going through crises only has to share lived experience to be valid, to hold space with that individual, and to give them enough emotional support, to let them make the necessary decisions and adjustments in their decisions for a better outcome. Mm-hmm. In other words, everybody needs somebody in their corner.
Yes. Amen.
And you don't have to just be a pharmaceutical professional, just throwing pills and prescriptions at people, because what they really respond to is human kindness.
Yes.
So that really did intrigue me, because my lived experience became really profound in the construction of my autobiography. When Dr. Stanley started walking me through interviews, that's how I'm able to speak and talk to you freely about all this trauma that I experienced over the course of my career. Mm-hmm. Right? I had practice.
Yes.
With Dr. Stanley, right? Just unpacking it, because he gave me like a sense of safety, a safe space without judgment, right? To where I could unpack things that previously had me traumatized due to the fact that I felt so embarrassed about some of it, so frustrated about some of it, because I had no control over it. I felt humiliated by so much of it, because I had a disproportionate amount of ill-placed ego, right? Mm-hmm. And so I went through the things I went through because I had to go through those things to become this person that I'm here in a position to serve people today.
Yeah.
Right? So year before last, I took the initiative and I got trained and certified as a substance abuse or substance misuse peer specialist. And I went through the process of, applying for like volunteer work with various mental health facilities in the community. And that's how I came about a position as a advisory board member for the Sims Foundation, right? When the journalist Michael Corcoran passed away suddenly, they had a memorial service for him at Antone's. Mm-hmm. And I knew Michael for a number of years, because he was not only a really well-respected journalist, but he was a funny guy, and we've always had, amusing interactions just based on music. I remember one night I vehemently tried to convince him to listen to a Marilyn Manson album. And I practically cornered him, you know what I'm saying? Saying like, you're missing out if you don't listen to this album, you know what I'm saying? And then about a month later, he came back and said, yeah, you're right. That was a great album. I never would have listened to it if he hadn't put so much pressure on. So anyway, I'm at Michael's memorial service, saw the Sims Foundation. And I met Derek. Basically just gave him an elevator pitch, that I had this certification and I wanted to work in a meaningful capacity with young Austin creatives, because I wanted to dispel the mythology that I had basically experienced in the 70s, where everybody was advocating like drug and alcohol use as an alternative lifestyle, not to be like your parents, not to be like the quote unquote establishment, you know what I'm saying? And to tune in, turn on, and drop out, and all of those mythologies, that were rampant back when I was an impressionable 18-year-old. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And having gone through like years of substance engagement and to degrees substance abuse, insofar as it got to a point to where it just become de rigueur. It wasn't a situation where I felt physically addicted to where I had to have it, or I was going to break into a liquor store and steal something or whatever, right. You know what I'm saying? But it was a situation where it becomes so reflexive,
It's just there. It's just part of life.
In my lifestyle and in my social circles.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was just oblivious to it, And I usually like to give so much credit for the relationship that I had with my wife, because she was the person that kind of pulled the plug on my need to be recognized as an international celebrity. I had been kind of hypnotized by that stasis of ambition, right? Because my potential was obvious.
Yeah.
And my potential was validated, but I was literally like living in a twilight zone.
Yeah.
To where my friends are on television, but I'm not.
Right.
And I felt that my value was plummeting, year by year, that I was not on that same, let's say, level of cultural recognition. You know what I mean? Like my value began to deteriorate. My personal value began to deteriorate.
In between the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the ultimate battleground.
Yes, it is.
So my wife kind of basically revived my self-esteem gradually over time by just not putting that demand as a prerequisite for our relationship, because I had gotten into a situation where I just didn't feel validated, you know what I'm saying?
As a human.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so it was literally cannibalizing my joy. Right? And the alcohol and drug use were just coping mechanisms, to get from one day to the next day of that torture.
Yes.
So to speak, right? But meanwhile, like they say in the New York Dolls song, I was looking good in the process. You know what I mean? And nobody would know. It's just like the Pagliacci Tears of a Clown type situation, right? It's like, look, man, nobody's trying to hear about your heartbreak.
Yeah.
Because people out here losing arms, losing limbs, losing vital organs. You dig what I mean? Ain't nothing wrong with you. You look great.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say.
That's all just from outside looking in.
So pack up that tiny violin, because ain't nobody trying to hear that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And of course, it was exacerbated by the fact that nobody from my core management organization had really been forthcoming in a timely fashion.
Yes.
And this thing had sort of just festered in a malignant way.
It was a very deep wound that was open for decades.
Yes. So with that being said, that literally was the runway for me to take new flight, going into peer support, right? Taking those
beautiful way to
taking those negatives, turning them into positives, and being able to unpack my story in an inspirational way is what you've given me the privilege to do today. So I've been gainfully employed since February of last year with Integral Care mental health facilities. I serve a team called the Forensic Support Team, and our mission is basically serving people that have been incarcerated, that had pre-existing mental health and substance use conditions, but were found incompetent to stand trial at the point of intake. So rather than these people just deteriorating in a holding cell indefinitely, we provide them with mental health resources, medications, and monitoring and personal encouragement through peer support to keep them focused on a positive outcome. And every day is an adventure.
Oh, I bet.
No 2 days alike. You know what I'm saying? And the stories that I've heard in the interim of the last 9-10 months.
Oh, I could not imagine.
I can't even start to talk about music and music careers in conjunction with these levels of
real
distress,
real life,
and tragedy. You know what I mean?
And it's not to, everybody has their own tragedies in life, no matter how much of the top you are, or the bottom of the bottom, everybody has a tragedy. And I'm sure a lot of what you're doing now probably helps you just as much as it helps them.
Oh, more so. I tell my supervisor all the time, I would pay to do this work.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah. And I told her when I was applying for the job, it's like, I don't care what it pays. I just want to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It turns out that it's certainly a fair wage. And not only that, it gives me a real sense of purpose, every day on a daily basis.
You said that word, purpose, as I was writing a title for what this series was about, and a description of what that series was about. And I used a couple adjectives, and purpose was the last one that came to my mind, because that's exactly what made me think about what you are doing. It is your purpose, especially with everything that has happened in your life up until recently. Just the roller coaster without the drop, right? And I am so grateful for you to be sitting in this chair, and thank you again for your time, these stories, your history lessons. I've learned so much, and man, I just hope that people can um, take away a little something about life and their struggles from these conversations.
Well, I'll just say this: you've been a very gracious and supportive host, and I hope that whatever you take from that, you can magnify tenfold, to those individuals less enlightened, because you literally have been in a situation where you've had some quality time with Yoda.
Yes, I feel that way, brother. But God bless you, man.
God bless you too, man. And like I said, nothing can dim the light that shines from within. So never forget that.
Amen. Thank you.
After you, everybody else comes first. Clarity is sublime. Peace.